Anya Robbins, and welcome to another Clubhouse. I have with me the one, the only, Howard Lyon.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here and do some drawing today.
Oh, this is going to be great. So I do have the canvas ready to go, if I can grab that here. And we already have a ton of people here. It's amazing to see you, Frank, Yaga, Larium, Sad Banana, Cool Rift, Spunk, Winter Fairy, two of you. There's two Winter Fairies. And Trudy over here. Hello, guys. How are you doing?
That's very cool.
They're awesome. And, you know, with time, even more people will pool in. But for now, oh, man. And two Anyas. Yes, I have the stream one and I have the one where I paint. So today the theme is draw something beautiful. So actually, if you go to Howard's website, which I will link right here, he has this like really awesome thing at the bottom. I choose to paint that which is beautiful and interesting. So today your homework, should you choose to accept it, is to paint something beautiful and interesting to you. So go ahead and get on the board, everyone. It's going to be fun. So actually, somehow, a lot of the people that I was talking to, like, I had no idea, like, who you were. And I was like, I gasped. So I put together some questions that will allow you to showcase what you do and who you are. So if you guys go on his website, you can read his bio. But instead, I have some questions for him. So
yeah,
let's hear. So Howard, you grew up with supporting parents who nurtured your artistic talents early on, right?
Yes.
So do you remember a time or a moment when you were like, "This is it. This is what I want to do with my life," or was it like more gradual?
I like sharing this story because it kind of comes full circle. When I was 10 years old, I had a friend who introduced me to Dungeons and Dragons. And like that first night that we played, we played the whole night. And it was like 6 a.m. before we even realized, you know, time had passed and that we were playing the whole night. And it just really captured my imagination. And I had always loved to draw, but playing D&D gave me the chance to like design characters and maps and cities and creatures, and just absolutely loved it. And I ended up turning into a very annoying person to play with because I'd want to spend all of my time drawing the creatures and characters. So we'd go to play and it would be like, oh, you know what, give me just a little bit more time. I'm going to finish drawing this out. And so it would end up being hours while everyone just kind of sat around and we'd chat. You know, it was fun. We'd play. My friends would draw as well. But that really kind of lit a spark in me. So that was 10. By the time I turned 12, I did kind of have that, like, this is what I want to do feeling. And went and told my parents, and they thought that was great. And they could see that I was passionate about it. And when other friends were, you know, taking up other hobbies and things that they like to do, I was inside drawing and painting, and
wow.
Got into an oil painting class. And my next door neighbor was a really cool guy that he was just a few grades ahead of me, but he like had classes on perspective and just kind of basic drawing. And so he started teaching me art lessons. He was my across the street neighbor. And that I felt like really gave me a great jump start. Even though he was just a high school kid, he was able to share with me things that I wasn't getting in any other art classes, you know, that were kind of geared towards a 12-year-old. And then I had great supportive teachers all through school as well. And very fortunate for that. And then went to college, and like I said, my parents always believed in that this would be a good route for me. And I recognize that's a great what a great blessing and kind of privilege that is to have that support and help me get to where I want to be.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, how amazing of a blessing it is. They were like, yeah, do it. Like,
Right.
this is so you. Like, let's go, because like, and I know this isn't necessarily the case for a lot of people.
No,
which just breaks my heart.
true.
But
Yeah, they don't have that support. I mean, I even know grown-up artists who don't like really have the support of their spouse, and that's very hard.
Oh. Yeah. I actually had to slowly win over my spouse.
Yeah.
To the idea. I had to be like, well, I want to do this thing. And he was like, well, I've never seen you draw. Because I took like a big stint like with no drawing. And that's when he met me. So he had never seen me draw before. So when I started to draw, he was like interested.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I want to do this. And he goes, are you crazy? So I just slowly win him over. But he's a very hardworking man. And so when he saw the hard work I was putting in, he was, you know,
he was on board.
He came around.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're actually serious. Oh, okay.
Well,
I mean, that fascinates me. You were in oil classes at such a young age.
Yeah. And I took, it was kind of funny. I started off in oils, and that's my primary medium now. And I took that class, and then I didn't do any color for like the next like 6-7 years. I was all about drawing and ink, and I even like openly would say, I'm never doing color. It's all about the black and white. And that was just kind of funny. And I had a college teacher who was just like, stop being ridiculous, and got me going with color. I think what really helped me were digital tools, and helped me gain a better understanding of color theory and color practice. And so Corel Painter, one of the back when it was Fractal Painter, that was one of the early programs that I used and loved it. I think it was 94 that I started using that.
I was born in 94.
Yeah, I'm an old man.
I'm so sorry.
Just had my birthday.
Not to bring that up, but like, wow.
Yeah, what amazing. A privilege it is to get old, right? Like, to be able to live a long life. So I hope I get a whole lot older. It's a great thing to be able to get old, to survive and live somewhere where you can get old and all that. So
yeah. Oh, that's true. That's true. And it brings about like the thought of, it's funny, like a lot of people, they'll work to retire, but like as an artist, I feel like I'm going to be doing this till like I can't, till like literally physically can't.
Yeah. Like if I think about retiring, I'm like, what would I do? Oh, well, maybe I'd travel the world and paint, like go do plein air painting around the world.
Exactly.
Like, nothing really changes from what I'm doing now, the thought of retiring. So why even make that a consideration?
Yeah. I love that. So your career spans everything from dragons and trolls to religious murals. How do you mentally switch between vastly different genres of art? And what kind of challenges does that present for you as an artist?
Same costumes, right? It's like a guy with a staff, a beard, and a robe. And so I didn't even have to find new models or new costumes. I joke, but it really is true. Like,
that's so funny.
Such an easy transition there. I haven't actually done religious work in some time. I had kind of a stint there where I did a bunch, and I'm grateful for that in my life. But my real passion is with fantasy and mythology, and kind of the any of my personal work that you'll see is kind of geared towards that. So that's my real love.
Yeah, it was just really cool to see like the variety, because I was obviously doing a dig deep on you. I was like, huh. And I was like,
Yeah.
whoa. Like I'm seeing this whole like section of your life where you did like just a ton of beautiful like murals and like, okay, hold on. There's a question I had for later that I want to actually bring up now. Where is it? Hold on. I know this is not very smooth, but I wonder if I like took it down. Did I take it down or is it on a different page? Yes. So can you share how it feels to work on piece that would have such a long lasting and profound spiritual impact? Like to be in that space?
Yeah, doing murals on buildings definitely comes with pressure, right? Knowing that you're doing something that will probably be there, like when your great grandchildren go look at something. At least if you use good materials and all of that, it should be around for a long time. Whereas a lot of the pieces that I've done, when they're for a corporate client, Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, who knows how long those will kind of stick around and be available. It's with the internet, maybe everything's forever at this point, but certainly doing a piece where it's meant to bring a certain mood or feeling to a space. You work with an architect, an interior designer, very different approach, and the gravity of it or the pressure of it definitely kind of kicks in. And at first it was a little bit daunting, but once I got compositional studies done and just kind of went through the typical process, I felt like I was settled in, and wasn't as intimidating. Hopefully that answered that.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. We have a comment here from Frank. Howard isn't old, he's vintage.
Yeah, I like it, vintage. I just turned 51, so that's my
congrats
vintage age. Yeah, just last week.
That's so great. That's amazing.
Me and my
Honestly,
wife. I was going to say, me and my wife and kids were headed to Scotland here on September 30th. So if there's anyone in Scotland here, we're going to be in Edinburgh. Museums.
Yeah, pop in the chat, guys. Where are you from? Where are you from? That way, if he's going anywhere near you, he can be like, oh, that one.
Yeah, come go tour the National Gallery or Portrait Gallery or in Scotland. There's a fantastic sergeant there.
Okay, so you've worked, speaking of galleries, you've worked in video games, books, and traditional gallery spaces. What's the biggest difference in how you approach a piece when it's going to end up, let's say, on a book cover versus in a video game or in a gallery?
Yeah, usually the work for video games is more about the idea, and the kind of rendering aspect of it doesn't come into play quite as much if I'm doing concept work for a video game. I did at one of the last companies that I worked at, Cheyenne Mountain Entertainment, I would do these big finished establishing shot paintings, where we had contractors in various countries that we all needed to be on the same page. And so we do these big, establishing shots, and that was a lot of fun. But usually the video game work is more conceptual. And then for a book cover, you're illustrating with a very specific purpose, that is to sell books. It doesn't even always have to be accurate for the book. It can be more to convey an idea. And then when I do gallery work, I'm trying to create a piece that can be consumed over time, where you're trying to add a depth of meaning or a depth of kind of purpose to the art that someone can look at over multiple years and get something from. I kind of liken it to a wonderful food, you know, like a food that you absolutely love and that you can eat throughout your life and it will sustain you. Whereas sometimes concept art and illustration work is more like fast food, where you're going to consume the book cover and you kind of move on after you've done so. It serves its purpose and you go from there. Now, I feel like when I'm most successful with my illustration work, I create something that is both lasting and, you know, fulfills that purpose of the illustration. And I do feel like I've been able to do that a few times over the course of my career. But the more specific the assignment is, like a lot of work for Dungeons and Dragons, it's like paint this fighter with this wizard with this character, and they're fighting this, you know, it's a super specific narrative, and it makes it a little bit harder to do that, you know, for some of the like interior illustrations. But that's not a complaint at all. That's just kind of the nature of illustration.
Huh.
Okay, there is a set resolution on the canvas. I like started zooming in and I'm like, what are we working with here? Like DPI.
Yeah, so it's funny because if I make it too small, then because everyone has a small piece, it'll get too pixelated. But this is actually a huge canvas. And if I make it any bigger, some people that have like slower hardware start to be like, oh, we can't draw. There's too much lag. So that's, yeah.
Medium.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, it's great. I like that I have that capacity to zoom in and get a little more detailed in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that was such a good answer. Sorry, I was blown away. Like I'm like thinking really hard now. It's amazing. By the way, welcome. We have a few more people. We have Hatscape here, Little Painter, Winter, Vincestro, Stranger Danger. Hello, guys. Welcome.
This is cool.
Ooh, what's something about the artistic process that makes you keep coming back to it? And this kind of comes in. I have a question that's almost exactly the same, so I'll ask it. Hold on here. Oh, darn. Okay, well, I am having technical difficulties. So so what keeps you like coming back to this like time and time again? Because you've had like a 20 or so. Sorry, I don't know like exactly how long.
No, you're good.
How long, like all of your years, right? But in the professional stage, yeah, you've been doing this for so long. So please give us your secret.
I really kind of started my professional career in 1996. Started working at a video game company called Sapphire. And I got hired there while I was going to college. It was in my junior year of college that I got hired, and didn't think I would work there very long. I thought I would do that while I was going to school and then jump into like gallery work from there. But that was very optimistic, the idea that I would be able to just, you know, suddenly start doing work that galleries would want, that people would be interested in buying. So I was very fortunate to be able to start in video games. And I ended up working in the video game industry for about 12 years. And, wow. You know, I had my own video game company for a while. We did little kids games. That was a lot of fun. and I've had the chance to work on some big titles. I worked on StarCraft Brood Wars. I worked on Clay Fighter 63 and a third. If there's old gamers here, that was a lot of fun to work on that. And that was the first project where I got to be a lead on. It was a Nintendo 64 game. I got to work on Diablo 4 more recently. I worked on Star Wars: The Old Republic. So I still do some contract work here and there. But my real love, like I said before, is fantasy art and mythology. And I'm kind of reaching a point in my career where I'm ready to stop working for other clients and focus on my own work for a while and see where that leads. So that's my plan. I've got some projects that I'm doing for Brandon Sanderson right now and will be over the next year. But I'll also be getting ready for a solo show at the Haven Gallery, and that will all be focused on mythology paintings.
Oh, I'm so excited for that. You did touch on Brandon Sanderson. I do have a question about that. So you've been part of his creative world in your work for Mistborn and the Stormlight Archive. So how do you collaborate with authors to visually bring their world to life? And how do you find a balance between their vision and like your interpretation?
And that is a great question. It's been interesting to see kind of Brandon's evolution. So do you want to, I'll tell you how I got started with Brandon, because I get asked that question a lot when I go to like the
I would love to, because I would want to work for him. So
yeah, when I was 15, I started teaching art lessons out of my home. And kids, it would be like 10-year-olds and that was fun to do. Well, one of the kids that took lessons, he was like 12 at the time, he didn't go on to be an artist, but he did go on to be a businessman and ended up getting a job over in the Middle East. And he was over there when Brandon and Brandon's art director, Isaac Stewart, traveled over there. And while they were there, they went to church, and my friend was there and was a fan of Brandon's and had stayed in touch with me. And he said, "Oh, my friend Howard is an artist and he's going to be at Salt Lake Comic-Con exhibiting. You should stop by and see him and check out his art. He does a lot of fantasy work." And so Isaac went from the Middle East over back to Salt Lake and introduced himself and said, "Would you like to do work for Brandon Sanderson?" And
that's amazing.
I was like, "Cool, who's Brandon?" And introduced me to Brandon and his books. So this was like 11 years ago. And when I first went over to Brandon's place, all of his business was being done out of his garage and basement. And now Brandon has a massive, massive warehouse where like 70 people work.
Let's go.
The youngest, she works for Brandon in their shipping department. And the growth has just been unbelievable. So that's how I got started working with Brandon. So that's all you need to do. So teach art lessons.
Oh, okay.
That will
eventually. I missed it though. I'm not 15.
Yeah, well, so that's been my path. But I will.
No, I think that's amazing and such a blessing, because your friend was at the right place at the right time. You were at the right place at the right time, He's amazing. I don't know if you guys know, like Brandon Sanderson, most successful, I think like book launch with the Secret Projects.
Yeah.
And then most
Kickstarter.
Yeah. And then his newest one with the, so I'm going to butcher this, but his world building and D&D style adventure books. And he's got like all these little miniatures and the maps and the dice and all the stuff. It's
an RPG through Brotherwise Games.
Yes,
and it was the biggest RPG ever on BackerKit. And then he's the biggest project
Yeah.
ever on Kickstarter, where they hit like $42 million for his secret project books. So I think Brandon's, I think it'd be safe to say Brandon's the most successful fantasy author writing right now that has not yet had a TV show or movie made of his products. But I think that's just, it's got to just be a matter of time. I don't have any insight on that or insider information. It's just got to be
no worries.
Time before we're gonna see movies and TV shows.
You know who we need? We need oh my goodness. Hold on. We need James Cameron to take Stormlight Archive.
Yes.
Like that would be so good. We need James Cameron. We need him. James Cameron, please contact Brandon Sanderson. Let's make a movie, a set of movies. Yeah. Because it's the performance, the writing, everything about the Stormlight Archive is like, and I don't mean to fangirl, but it's worthy of James Cameron.
It is. I'd take Denis Villeneuve as well. After seeing the Dune movies.
Dune, yeah, Gilles Villeneuve would be amazing as well. But it just deserves that artistry, and I feel like just we need to get all the like really intensely crazy artsy people. Hold on, I don't know why I'm blanking on names of people, but I'll get it in just a second here. Hans Zimmer. We need Hans Zimmer on like the songs for Stormlight Archive, and then we're good, because he literally made instruments for Dune. And I feel like he could do that for Stormlight.
With you. I agree.
Home hardware, let's go. It's that like innovation. It's that like the spirit of creation that is just in their work that just needs to be a thing with Stormlight. And I commend Brandon on not giving anyone his rights to his books yet for movies or shows. Right. Because I feel like if I was him, I would wait for someone to come along that was very skilled in movie making for this.
And I do believe Brandon is also very committed to maintaining control with his properties, so that when movies are made, they don't come in and be like, we're going to eliminate this character and make changes that would compromise the story. That's my understanding. That it has to be the right deal for Brandon to even consider it. So that things don't get botched as far as the intent behind the story and the intent behind the characters.
I agree. So many times I've read a book and then the movie like just greatly disappointed because they didn't respect the source material.
Right.
That irks me.
Yeah, that seems to be the norm. That seems to be the standard. Yeah. We've seen what can happen when the director is a fan of the material and is with Peter Jackson. And speaking of the Lord of the Rings movies, not the Hobbit movies, I feel like the Hobbit movies got overproduced and overcommitted, whereas somehow they struck magic with Lord of the Rings and Philippa and Fran and Peter Jackson.
They did wonders with that. Yeah. Let's not even bring Rings of Power into this.
Yeah, you know what though? So I have what I feel like is a magic power, and that is to have a very low entertainment threshold. So I am easily entertained and am able to, with Rings of Power, just dissociate with my fandom of Tolkien and just enjoy it for being an absolutely gorgeous show. Like the cinematography on it is phenomenal. And so I enjoy it quite a bit on that level and just be like, this is this is just something else, and not have to worry about it too much.
Yeah, you have to divorce the two. I'm the same, by the way. It's just I watch it next to my husband, who incessantly is like, that's wrong. That's that wouldn't happen that way. No. She's way older than he is. Like, she should definitely be more respected than the king in this area. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So it's just funny how like some fans get so like intense about it. But I know it's like not technically correct. Like a lot of the source material is disrespected, which is sad. But you know, so that's why I'm really excited. Whenever something Stormlight does come out in terms of videography, I'm gonna be excited for it because I'll know we can trust Brandon with that decision. Like he will make sure. Yeah.
That's a very cute drawing with the lady and the dog. There's some really fun ones going on here.
Yeah, I know.
The goal. That's cool. This is a neat tool. How fun.
I know, right? I love it for like this kind of stuff. We get together weekly for studies. So you can also study with people online. Wow. So everyone grabs a little corner and everybody does the same study and you put the reference in the middle. Or you all do like a theme, like everyone does stones or everyone does iron or everyone, you know, a texture. And I also get together weekly with my students. And I just paint and draw with them. And it's so nice to be on the same canvas.
Love that.
Yeah, this tool is so fun. And it lends itself so well because you can put whatever you want to do in it. It saves automatically. So like even if it crashes, you come back, it's the same drawing. So it saves it to the cloud.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, per brush stroke. So you'll never get a crash problem.
I don't know if I answered that earlier question very well. What keeps me coming back? I think I got sidetracked, which is.
You're good. You're good.
It's just infinitely challenging, right? Art's one of those things where you get better, and when you get better, your ability to see what's wrong, your ability to create something greater increases. And so the next challenge is to put those skills and abilities to use. So no matter how good you get, you're always moving the goalpost, so to speak. You know, you can always do something more. And that's what is so exciting to me about it. Like, no matter how old I get, this will always be challenging, you know? So I love that. And just to keep going with it.
I agree. It's so nice. And like a lot of people, like they'll get into this and they'll think, oh, I just want to draw good. And they romanticize the idea of being an artist. But really, like, the fun part is the journey. Like,
yeah.
Not to be journey before destination.
Yeah. Hey, I love it. I love it.
I've made several people in this chat start reading the Stormlight Archive, and they're probably like just rolling their eyes to high heaven, going like, "Oh, Anya, please."
So, do you recommend people to start with Stormlight?
Ooh, fun story. I don't. I recommend. So I started with oh my goodness, why can't I remember the name?
Is it Mistborn?
Nope.
The
now this the colors one. The
Warbreaker.
Warbreaker. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't remember like the name. But so I always tell my fellow artists, like, start with Warbreaker, because it's like it's all about colors and it stimulates, like, for me it stimulated so much imagery. I thought so much about like what is this magic system, like this is so weird. And it's a smaller book, so if they're like not used to reading bigger chunky novels, it like kind of warms them up to it. Nowadays I actually tell them start with Tress.
That Tress
is
yeah, which I'm biased towards, but
of course.
Tress is
Which,
good.
by the way, if you haven't seen his art for Tress, you guys need to see this. Like, this is just disgusting. Hold on. No, he's sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot, but so I tell them to start with Tress nowadays, and then I have told one person, so this person here, Frank, is one of my students, said, I started with Stormlight Archives because Anya recommended that. Yes, he is special. So he's the type of person that I know can handle starting with Stormlight Archive. And I say that in a way that, like, I can tell he is able to read books with like a ton of different characters and put 2 and 2 together. And he doesn't need immediate gratification. Like, he's the type of person that he will be like patient enough to look through all of that and wait, because sometimes Brandon can be setting up stuff for a while,
right?
But you get amazing payback in the end, right? Because he's got that whole like Brandon Lanch scenario thing. So I know my student enough to know, okay, you start with Stormlight because you're gonna love it. But most people I say Tress because it's a lot more approachable. It's hilarious. It's like just such a vibrant world. Tress is like just such a character that you immediately identify with. It's just like, I'll be reading Tress to my like 10-year-old as soon as he's 10.
Yes.
Like it's like Tress and then The Hobbit, like that. Immediately. Required reading.
And there's so many things that I love about Tress. I love that both of her parents are there and supportive of her. You know, like when she, well, maybe some spoilers here, but they're very early on spoilers. But I love that aspect about it. I love that she is strong, you know, this great character. Have you heard Brandon kind of describe the inspiration for it as being Princess Bride?
No.
We said they were watching Princess Bride, and the thought was expressed, I believe, by Emily, Brandon's wife, that, man, why didn't Buttercup go after Wesley? And Brandon was like, I'm writing that story.
Yes, heck yeah. Just off to the side, just for everyone who's watching on the stream, I want to just quickly share one of my favorite illustrations. One of them. He did so many for Tress. So you have to just buy the book and go see the glorious artwork. I have like the leather bound, you know, secret novel version, which is like the hard. It's so nice. It smells lovely. But definitely go check out all the illustrations. But this one is my favorite. I've done multiple comp studies on this because it's actually genius for the artists among you. Like, if you're doing comp studies, this one is amazing. And I don't want to make you feel like on the spot, but it really is. And I admire this piece. So yeah, from the materials to the hair to all the values being so carefully controlled.
That was a fun,
and you could see the story.
Unusual palette for me, right? I don't usually work with so many greens and like different variations of green. So that was a fun challenge to paint with.
It's lovely. It's very, very lovely. And you could see the story. Here's the thing that gets me. You could see the story so well. Look down here, guys. So these are little pebbles, which is like the salt that they spread around. Mini world building spoiler. These seas are not water. These are like little
spores.
Yeah, there's spores, and if there is water that is poured on there, they like violently come out with these like thorny vines of death. So they sprinkle salt. They like have it in their tea. They don't want moisture anywhere near the spores, and so you can see like it says the story like there's salt crystals up there. Look at that. I mean, I'm just like, okay, I need to get on this level eventually.
That kind of storytelling is fun. And, you know, you asked a question earlier about like working with someone like Brandon to kind of realize a vision. Well, it does help with Brandon that Brandon is a very visual storyteller. That, you know, like you recommended Warbreaker. When you read that, there's just so much that jumps out to draw and paint. And it's kind of fun. A lot of Brandon's books have artists or artisans as some of the main. Oh, there's perspective controls. That's cool.
Oh yeah.
I like that.
Yes. But when there's multiple people on the canvas, what you can do, when the perspective layer is on, I'm just telling other people, like for the future, you can go to that layer and you see how there's an eye, and then below that eye, there's like something called hide layer for me only. You can hide other people's perspective layers if you don't want to see them.
Oh, that's cool.
Just to show people you can do that. Oh, this is really cool. Nice.
So do people usually jump around and draw different things on here, or is it?
Yeah. Yeah, you could just doodle all you want. We even had one where it was like the rule was cover every nook and cranny. So we got uncomfortably close to everybody else's work and like tried to cover the entire page. It was so fun. Yeah. Let's grab another. So up and coming artists often struggle with finding their voice in their art. As someone who's created such a diverse body of work, how did you balance finding your own style while working on projects with established franchises like Magic the Gathering and World of Warcraft?
That's a good question. You know, I probably could have stood to focus a little more on style. I was very surprised when I would hear people say, "Oh, I can totally tell that's your painting." Because I've never really put much emphasis on a style, you know. I have always just kind of drawn and worked kind of how the client I felt like was going to be best for that project. But over time, style just kind of happens. So I think there's multiple approaches there. One is to work on, you know, a specific kind of shape language or that, like I think of like Jesper Eisling, who, you know, he has a very distinct style in the shapes that he creates, and it's very intentional. Whereas an artist like myself, it's more about kind of the texture and rendering and the light, and I don't really have shape language that I purposefully implement into my work. And I think both of those are reasonable approaches, right? So I don't have great advice for someone wanting to develop a style, but if you were to follow my path, I would say that style happens while you're working and painting a lot, and that that'll just kind of come with the territory, so to speak.
I would agree. I haven't focused on style at all, actually. I just like kind of focus on the volumes and the masses and making sure that I'm like accurately, or as close as possible, accurately portraying what I mean to.
Yeah.
And I feel like the brush strokes that you make are really important, because whether you want to or not, you're always going to reveal parts of yourself onto the canvas via different things. And for me, it's very much brushstroke and little choices in composition. And
yeah, no, I agree. You know, I'm kind of to the point where with my oil painting, I'm, especially when I'm painting alla prima, my focus is on trying to make beautiful marks. So like you have handwriting and then there's calligraphy, and
yes,
you can create an image with the equivalent of handwriting where all of the information is there and you're communicating, but my goal is to try and move more into where I'm painting with calligraphy, so to speak. And that's like Sargent and Soroya and Zorn.
I was about to say.
That simplification of information is, when I was young, I didn't admire those artists. I looked at the work and I hungered for artists more like Jerome and Eng, and artists who had that incredible ability to render and basically didn't simplify much. You know, they were drawing and painting all of the information. And I think that's valuable as a young artist to work towards that, because it's once you do that that you can say, I'm going to choose what to not paint, and that is as important as what you do paint. So when you look at like a Sargent painting and you look at this amazing jewelry and you get up close to it and it's like 6 brush strokes and it looks like a glimmering diamond ring.
I hate that.
Yeah, that's incredibly challenging to do.
Yeah.
And I put that on the same level as like an incredible calligraphy, where the marks themselves are all beautiful.
I love how you put that. That is so good. I never thought to compare it to calligraphy, but it's so true. That is so good.
Beautiful mark making. Richard Schmid was wonderful at that. Daniel Keyes,
Yes.
Jeremy King. Such beautiful work that they're doing today. Let's see. I need to check the chat here. That's my favorite.
I'm a huge Carla Ortiz fan, but sorry,
Carla's
go ahead.
Fantastic. Someone asked what my favorite drink is to have while I draw. You know, honestly, I like ice water is my favorite while I'm working. But one of my favorite things to drink is the blood orange soda from Trader Joe's. It's from Italy, or at least they say it's from Italy. And it's so good. It's like the best. When I go to Italy, so I was in Italy one time and at a restaurant, and the waiter came up and I wanted a lemon drink, a lemon soda. And I said, do you have like, I don't know, a lemon soda? And he came back with a can that literally said lemon soda on it. Like that was the brand of it. You know, it's like Coke, Pepsi, lemon soda. And it is so good. And I've only in Italy. So if I could, that's what I would get here. It is perfect. It's not super sugary. It's has great tartness to it. Sometimes there will even be like lemon seeds in the soda. And so I like that, that kind of,
that's awesome,
quality of product where you can see the citrus in there like that. So I must be.
Yeah, it's not like fake.
Yeah, right. It's not like Minute Maid lemonade or something like that. It's pretty so that's my favorite. I don't really drink alcohol. It just has never been something that I've enjoyed. So I stick to like the little mocktails and that. But yeah, the Trader Joe's blood orange soda, I highly recommend it.
Nice. Yeah. I'm very into, sorry, I'm looking down to where I keep my waters. I have like sparkling water.
I do like
drinks called
water.
Aha.
Nice.
And they smell of a flavor. So I have one that's
we bought like little soda streams so we could do
smart.
That's nice.
Smart.
My favorite thing, we got one of the opal ice makers, and it makes like the kind of chewable pebble ice. That's like my favorite purchase in a long time.
Yeah, I find I also, by the way, I have an ice maker like on my desk. And what it does is when it's I have it set to a timer to make ice every hour, and when it makes the ice, it beeps at me.
Oh,
So then it reminds me to get some water and drink water.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, it came at like a concern from my husband. He was like, "Are you drinking enough water?" I would get headaches and stuff because you get so focused, eh? Like you just go and you go and you go, and then all of a sudden you're like, when was the last time I drank or ate? Oops.
Yeah, the time can really slip by.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this though. Wouldn't change it for the world, eh?
It's the best job. It is the best job. For those that are like new to this, it's so worth it. Just stick with it. It takes time. It can take years to get to that point where you're supporting yourself. Sometimes people are able to do it faster, but typically it takes a while to get to where you want to be. But it's absolutely worth it. Just the best job in the world.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Like when I first started this journey, I was like, yeah, I'll just be an illustrator. Like people can just freelance work. And I do some of that, but most of my income is just like teaching and community management. But I love that it's teaching art and then it's community managing an art community. So I get to always be like near, and it's my version of like a part-time job next to like what is my big thing, which is like art. So then I'll do my job and then I'll come home and I'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to do this commission or whatever. I say come home, but I am home.
Yeah.
But then you spend the rest of your day, you're like, okay, well, let's get better at the thing so that I can continue, it's just, this is what you do for fun now. This is your life. And I love it.
Yeah, it's the best.
So you've worked with legendary names in the art world like Robert Barrett and Ralph Barksdale. So what's one piece of advice from your mentors that stuck with you and continues to influence your work today?
Oh, that's a good question. Ralph Barksdale was one of my favorite teachers that I had. He used to do fashion design, and he had this just beautiful line, and you would always draw these long, kind of elegant figures and that. And he filled up sketchbook after sketchbook of drawings, and he was very emphatic that you needed to have ugly sketchbooks. You needed to have sketchbooks where you weren't afraid to just draw and waste paper and do it every day. And you never have to show it to anybody. It's just a space where you can make marks and make lines. And he would fill them with page after page of these tiny little gestures, these little figure drawings that were so appealing and fun. And they were always, his little characters that he drew were always up to like funny shenanigans on his sketch pages. And yeah, he really emphasized that. And I found that to be important. Even more broadly speaking, allow yourself to get the ugly things out, so to speak. Make lots of bad drawings and know that you're going to, and don't sweat it. Actually embrace it. Like, oh man, look at this hand, look at this face, this foot, and you don't sweat it at all. You're just like, yep, that's just part of the process of growing and exploring, is getting a lot of bad drawings out there while you're trying to do beautiful drawings.
I love that. I have a practice. I warm up every morning. And it's very similar. I don't put any pressure on myself, and it's an absolutely wonderful thing to do, especially that you can just be goofy.
Right.
And then you get so many ideas from that. So many times I've done that and been like, oh, that's going to be an illustration, but I'm going to tweak it, or I'm going to make it this way instead. Or it's an idea that evolves into a painting.
Right. Drawing ridiculous things. And I don't consider myself like, I mean, you can see these. I'm not a great sketch artist. My ideas are generally pretty rough. I draw well from reference. But you know, just drawing like this, I waste a lot of paper for sure.
Same here. I'm a lot more comfortable in paint.
Yeah, I like working.
So you're speaking my language.
Yeah. The first pancake, absolutely. Or maybe the dozen
yes.
Goes out of the way. Same with when I like making crepes, and yeah, that first one's always a waste. Get the temperature right and all of that.
Yep. Absolutely.
I look at it too like trying to learn another language. So drawing and painting is like learning a language. And at first you're learning some vocabulary words, and you're learning the grammar, and then you have to speak it a lot. You have to talk to people in the language in order to learn it. It's almost impossible to do without talking to people, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to say dumb things, and it's not always going to make sense, you know, be a little confusing, but then you start to get fluent in it, and it's very satisfying, that fluency, and you feel like you can communicate and you have that confidence. But it's not until you put that time in and become fluent that you can eventually start to write poetry. And you have to be quite fluent in the language in order to write poetry in the language. And to me, that's the goal. It kind of goes back to that same analogy of calligraphy with it, that it's really not until you're very proficient that you can do beautiful calligraphy, or you can write poetry in the language. And drawing and painting are, to me, are directly related to that kind of idea. So learn the language, and then know that down the line, that's when you're going to start writing poetry, hopefully.
You and your beautiful analogies.
You have a lot of time.
I love it.
Studio alone, right? Think of...
No, but that's wonderful, because it's so, it just, as artists, we like to create images a lot in our heads, and when you speak that way, it speaks the language of artists. Like we see it in our heads and understand it so much better. It's just a realization I'm having like right now. The analogies are probably one of the best ways to communicate with artists, because we will just picture it instantly, right, and make the comparison. It's so easy to. Wow. Sorry. Just like, wow.
No, I agree.
Awesome.
It's also the same reason when like someone describes something that's like pretty awful, and all of the artists are like, stop, I'm too visual.
Right? Because
now
we're picturing it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So a lot of artists, they struggle with rejection or not getting the recognition that they would necessarily expect early on.
Yeah.
As someone with multiple awards and accolades, how do you handle rejection? And do you have any advice for artists working to get to the next level?
You know what? So maybe this will relate to it. I've learned that neither the rejection nor the awards really change my career very much. Now that's a little bit easy to say because I am making a living with my art. Whereas early on you're getting rejected from companies and you're like literally trying to get on board so that you can earn money. So understand with my answer that I'm acknowledging that. So I'm not dismissing the realities of trying to make a career out of this. But when I worked on the first video game that I really worked on as an art director was a game called The Revenant from a company called Cinematics. And a lot of the look of the game was my vision, along with an incredible art team. But I got to do a lot of that kind of foundational work on it. And I thought, when this comes out, I'm going to have this incredible feeling of like, oh my gosh, I've made it. And the game released, went to the store, saw it on the shelves, and it was kind of like, oh, there it is. There's the I work on, with the very real knowledge that tomorrow I go back to work and I'm going to put food on the table, and I want to improve, get better as an artist. And over the years, I've found that is the most satisfying and motivating thing for me, is my own drive to get better and improve as an artist. And any awards that I win are like, they're so fun and satisfying, especially if they come from your peers. But beyond that, they don't really have a huge impact overall. Maybe they help. Maybe they can help with, like, someone saw that you won something and they want to commission you. It creates some trust. It helps with your resume. So it's absolutely beneficial and good, but it's also like, doesn't have as big of an impact as maybe it seems like it could. And the same is true with rejections. You get a rejection, maybe you apply for a job or you reach out to an art director and you don't hear anything back. So move on to the next one. It's one of the best things about our job that we don't necessarily have to work for one company. We can work for every company. And there's a lot of companies out there. So go and apply to the next one. When I quit video games full time, we had this sense of like, oh, okay, we no longer will have that steady paycheck. Well, we also aren't subject to a company making bad financial decisions and running out of money for payroll. I can now try and get work from 10 different companies at the same time. And I've found that I have so much more stability working for myself, contracting with companies, than I ever did when I had a salaried paycheck. So, but it took time. It took time to get to that point. I'm not saying that it just happened overnight. It took a long time and a lot of detours. And I feel like I've always had plans throughout my career, but nothing's ever gone according to plan.
That's very common.
Yeah, like I'm in a better place than what I planned,
Yeah. No, I got you. I have the amazing ability to do this in an area, and I will preface this by saying I fully understand how privileged I am to be in this position, and I do not judge anybody who cannot do it, because I have a wonderful husband who allows me to prioritize the studying of art, meaning I don't have to necessarily survive off what I make,
right?
Because he works so hard, and it is nice when I do make money, but he's so supportive and he gives me that space. Like, he doesn't tell me like, oh, get a 40-hour job at the local like call center. No, he says, okay, with your extra time today, go and study, get better. That way later in your career, you can make more money. And it's just this wonderful space where I don't have like the financial worry that a lot of artists go through. So I'm very, very thankful.
You have a smart partner. That's good for the relationship, and that's good for you and that growth. And it is an investment in the future. My wife, who I share a studio with, she's in the background.
Yeah. Oh, there she goes. Hi.
So that's Shari, and she managed my career while we had kids, young kids at home, and did just fantastic with it. But as our
can
kids got
imagine.
older and moved out, became empty nesters, and that role of like mother to young kids transitioned into mother to older kids. That meant that Shari needed to kind of discover again what she was going to do. Had we done it over again, we would have probably maintained a little bit more balance with Shari and her kind of creative outlets and the things she wanted to do. But she's caught up so fast. Shari is a very successful gallery artist now, and her primary medium is caustic, and like this big circular piece right here is Shari's, and that's done in wax.
What?
To a solo show that she's having here in Utah at the Compass Gallery. But she's represented by Meyer Gallery in Park City, the Marshall Gallery in Scottsdale. She's in a gallery in Telluride. They have galleries in Jackson and just a bunch of different places. So Shari went from being, kind of managing what I was doing and being an incredible mom to our kids to being my sugar mama. So it was a good plan that we're where we're at now. So I love it. She's just a gangbuster.
Well, first of all, tell her after the stream, congratulations, because that is a huge feat. And number two, I'm so happy for both of you. That's so lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, that's such a great story. Oh my God. Because that's what I want with my partner. I want us to, my husband, I want us to be partners in crime. I want us to like go out and do stuff together and be part of the same business. So it is really, really heartwarming of a story for me in particular.
What does your husband do for work?
So right now he is a vendor. He owns the exclusive rights to sell Schneider's Lance products in all of the grocery stores in a certain area. And when I say a certain area, I mean the size of a state.
That's cool.
So he buys product, he sells the products to grocery stores, he puts them up, and then he goes to the next grocery store, and he just does that constantly. And he owns the route. So instead of being someone that's paid by Schneider's Lance, he owns the route himself. So we're actually almost done payments on that route. And that's a really good place to be, because the route is about like the value of a house. So we're really happy. He's amazing. He's so hardworking. When I tell you, like, I could not have a sweeter husband. He's amazing. So supportive.
Maybe eventually he'll like do what he needs to do with that, and then eventually start doing art, and you guys both can go and
you would laugh, but you know those little miniatures, the Warhammer miniatures?
Oh yeah.
He transitioned from that into terrain making and into 3D printing miniatures. He has like all the Stormlight minis, and he's constantly asking me to like help him paint them, and like he's learning, and that's his like hobby that he loves. So
he's got that drive.
Yeah. He is super creative in his thinking too. So I want to encourage that and see where we can get him.
Love it.
There's whispers of a YouTube channel.
Very cool.
For sure. Oh my gosh. I'm so impressed with this canvas. My goodness. Okay. So I started community managing at the beginning of this year. And let me tell you, the quality of the art on the canvases in these clubhouses have never failed to impress me. Everyone's leveling up left and right. And so they join the canvas and they're just like flexing. It's so nice.
Very cool technology. It's
right?
I need to
It's so lovely.
So tell me, what does it take? Like if I want to add this as a benefit for Patreon or, connect to Discord, that sort of thing. What do you have to do to get up and going with it?
You mean like connect it as like...
To be able to, like, is Magma, like if I want to host, is that a subscription?
So you're part of my art space. So you technically already have Blaze, which is the paid version of Magma. If you wanted to like just do like these canvases like once in a while, I would love to involve you more. Like if you want to come on and do these more often, like I'm more than happy for that. But if you want to host one yourself, it depends what you want to do. Like if you want to host one, like what you're saying, like in your Discord with your community, is that more? Yeah. You just make a canvas. Like if you wanted, you could have someone like myself or just anyone who knows the program well to help you during that event, so that there's like someone admin of the board. But basically you just start a board and you give everyone the link, and then there's up to 50 people can join at one time. That's pretty much it. It's very, very simple.
I love that. I love that. Simple is good.
Yeah. So it's not complicated. Like if you wanted a rundown of how to do it, on the top left, don't do it immediately, but because you'll come out of this canvas. But on the top left, there's like an icon that is just the Magma logo, and it'll be your art desk, and that nobody else can see. And you can make a bunch of canvases in there and invite people to it. The invite to the canvas is always on the top right. It's a blue button. You'll see it on the screen you're on currently.
Oh, sure.
And so you can just invite anybody to any of your canvases, and they can just hop in, start to draw with you.
This seems like a great tool for teachers, like pretty incredible tool for teachers.
It's so good. When I tell you, so the way that my mentorship works is I'm available to my students like 5 days a week. And then 1 day a week, I get together with each of my students for an hour. And when I tell you, like, people will use the like available 5 days a week all the time, and I'll make videos for them as a response. But the thing that my students look forward to the most is always that hour in Magma they get with me, where I'm painting with them exclusively. It's always that one. So
yeah, that's really cool. So where are most people, like, are most of the people that are in here now students of yours?
No. I don't have that many students. Then I would be my husband's sugar mama. But so a lot of people are just from the Magma Discord. That's the community that I manage. And then some of them are from just friends of mine that I've made over periods of time. Some of them are my students. And yeah, it's just the people that are here are part of the Magma Discord. And I just put out an announcement that we're going to do this, and they show up, and it's great. They're fantastic.
I see that Winter said they live in Park City.
Nice.
Friday night, Winter, is the opening of the small work show at the Meyer Gallery, and my wife and I will be there. We both have work in the show, so that's a fun one to go to if you are interested in checking out the Meyer Gallery. It's kind of on the upper end of Main Street in Park City, at the top of the hill there.
So I'm like officially jealous of Winter, is what you're saying? I would be there.
I'm from, my wife and I, we met in high school in Arizona. And love Arizona. I've got family there. But we found ourselves coming to Utah frequently for art events. And Utah is so incredible for the art community here. I love it. I'm surrounded by hundreds of working professional artists, and it's the most non-competitive community that I've ever really been part of. So 10 years ago, we decided to move here, and we're so grateful that we did. We've met some just incredible people. I'm part of the Portrait Society of America, and when I go to that conference, like one year they choose 20 finalists, and one year 5 of them were from Utah. Like,
Oh,
they
wow.
really punch above their weight, and that is in a competition where you get entries from China and Europe and India and all around the
Wow.
world, and Utah managed to be 5 of the finalists, and it's not unusual for 3 of the finalists. I think every year that I've gone, 3 of the finalists have been from Utah. So like I said, the artists here are incredible. I regularly will have lunch with a sculptor named Ben Hammond. He does all of the sculptures for the NFL Hall of Fame, does big monuments. And then Brian Taylor's up the street. He's the inventor of the Strata easel, but before that, he's a world-class plein air painter, landscape painter. David Dibble, who did a lot of background work and concept work on the Ice Age movies of Blue Sky. He's now
I love that.
And is so good. He paints barns, makes me care about barns. I don't care about barns, but when I see him in his paintings, I'm like, oh, I love barns. Like, barns are so beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah. Really phenomenal. So
That's
I love
fantastic.
it. Really incredible place.
That's awesome. I looked it up because I know you have like a workshop in November, right?
That might be dated. That's an older post.
Oh.
So I think that's a couple years old.
Okay. Sorry.
You're good. I used to teach workshops out of my studio, but then my wife took over most of my studio.
I just heard her giggle in the background.
Yeah.
That was great.
That's a good
It's not really a stretch. It
Yeah.
really is true. So
all of this space back here is where I used to teach. Now it's filled with her art that you can see back there. So
Right on.
no regrets at all. And so now my biggest area, I do have a Patreon and I have a mentorship tier on there. And then I teach at Jeff Miracola's illustration intensive in June. I do sometimes teach workshops at the Scottsdale Artist School in Arizona, and that's a wonderful facility. So I recommend you looking at that for any of their courses. But I'll teach some workshops there. We are looking at building a bigger studio, but that's probably a few years down the line because we'd still kind of fit in the space where we're at right now. We'll see what
Watch
happens.
out. You'll turn into Brandon with that big.
Yeah. I know. His warehouse is so big, I want to just be like, okay, I'm going to just take this corner of the warehouse.
Yeah, just
need
move
this
in.
house.
He'll never notice.
Over here. Yeah.
He'll just be like, "Hey, since when have you been in here?"
Right.
Maybe you'll have been there for like a year and a half.
Right. Just a mouse in the corner.
Yeah. I totally agree. Oh man, this board. It's amazing. So for artists who are feeling stuck or stagnant, what's your go-to method for breaking through a creative block?
I'm a big believer that what was it, Norman Rockwell, that inspiration comes with perspiration. Maybe that wasn't Rockwell. That muse comes at the easel, while you're working, and so you just sit down and you start going and know that you're gonna waste some paint, you're gonna waste some paper, but that's my best advice for kind of getting through that. Now that is different than burnout. I've felt that burnout a couple times in my career, and that's more about like kind of maintaining a good mental health and balance in your life so that you don't kind of hit that wall and lose your drive to do anything. And for that, exercise, which I'm not great about, but exercise and eating well, I think are huge for that. Really taking care of yourself so that when you have to push through, challenging times in your schedule or challenging times mentally, that'll help. But yeah, you gotta take care of yourself on that.
Yeah.
Be hard to do.
It absolutely does help. I have found on any of the days that I'm working out, instant mood boost. Like it's so good. And honestly, I haven't always been the best example of that, but getting into that just for me was about being healthy for my kid. And then I found over time more and more things that I was thankful for in terms of doing that.
Right.
It was helping so many more areas than just being healthy for my family,
That's great.
But it's true. It does help with your mental health, helps with I'm sorry. My first language is French, so I'm sometimes I have a hard time figuring out the word I'm trying to say.
Well, your English is amazing then. Holy cow.
Thank you. Resilience. Good with resilience.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Little Painter didn't even know. Yeah, my first language is French, guys. Oh, Frank, that would be de terre, not die terre. But yes. Oh my gosh, they're so funny. But yeah, it can be so hard. I've seen so many people just come to me in the voice chats of our Discord and just be like, I don't know what to do. And I always, in the morning when I do my sketches, I feel like that's how I get all my bad strokes out. So a lot of the fear of writer's block or artist block for me is about feeling like I'm not good enough. And so when I get all those bad strokes out and I can be goofy, when I approach my studies or a commission or a live stream, I can feel like, okay, I'm warmed up. I've done all my bad strokes. Now it's time for the good strokes.
Right.
So that can help as well. Just go for it. Yeah. It's like, again, on the same page.
Draw. Go for a walk and then draw. That'll help.
Yeah. So you've worn different hats. Like you've been art director, concept artist, freelance illustrator. So how do the different roles shape the way you approach a new project? And is there one of those particular roles you find more affinity with?
Definitely my favorite role, my direction, my focus is gallery artist right now. And when I say gallery artist, that doesn't necessarily mean like working for a gallery, but doing work that I would call more on the fine art end of things, where I'm not illustrating for a commercial product, but I'm working on pieces that are just my personal work, things that I want to paint and explore, and that is where my kind of passion and drive is right now. So yeah, that's my favorite. I do think working as a concept artist was very beneficial for me, and then for my illustration career, working as an art director was very helpful, because it removed like getting negative feedback or changes from an art director can be stressful. But once you've been the one that has to give that feedback, you kind of realize, oh yeah, this is just kind of how it is. The first goal, the first responsibility is to create what the product needs and not what any individual needs for it. And kind of once you get that realization and you get over yourself, it makes it a lot easier to be a successful illustrator. Like, oh yeah, no, this is what the product needs, and so that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm being hired to do. So that was very helpful as I move into my fine art, where I'm doing pieces based on folklore, mythology, and that sort of thing. Having having some concept art background, but then also trying to create products that people will be interested in, I feel like that illustration background really helps there.
That's awesome. I love to hear all about like your transition through those. That was lovely. You really paint a clear picture, and that's a horrible pun, but
I'll take it. I like it.
yeah. There you go. Oh my goodness. All right. So lastly, Howard Lyon, looking back at your career, what advice would you give your younger self as an artist just starting out?
Oh,
Learn color.
yeah, learn. My wife said learn color.
That's so particular. I love that.
Yeah, that is like to not shy away from it. But I do think that focusing on drawing initially, you know, you get those drawing skills developing and it opens up a lot of possibilities, right? Whereas learning to draw later in life is 100% doable, just a little more challenging because you're eager to move forward into painting in color. But I would say just enjoy every day that you get to pursue this, because there were days where I was looking forward too much, and I wasn't focusing on what I was doing in that present moment with my art. And sometimes it's easy to get lost in what could be, what you want to be, rather than enjoying where you're at in that moment. Now, that doesn't mean that I absolutely am a fan and recommend goal making and setting your goals really high, aiming really high with your goals, but not losing sight that you should be enjoying what you're doing right now, because this is all temporary, right? Like we only get so much time to do the things that we're doing, and so really fall in love with where you're at in this moment and enjoy it, and keep working towards your goals at the same time.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure that's great advice for everyone. And you know, get into color, guys.
Yeah.
Moral of the story, get into color.
That's right. Don't delay.
For real. For real. When I started oil painting, I asked my teacher, I was like, what would you have done when you first started art? Like, you know, if you had to start all over. And he was like, do your Schmid charts.
Oh,
and at the time I still had like value issues and stuff. And I did those Schmid charts. I did all of my Schmid charts in 2 months. So after my 2 months of doing those charts, I started doing studies again. And lo and behold, I had somehow in the process learned how to separate in my mind the values from the colors. And I could then more accurately, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but there was like a huge leap in skill.
Yeah, it was beneficial. That's cool.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. So anybody who's like, I'm having a hard time with color and I'm fine with value, but as soon as I do color and value at the same time, like that's too hard. Highly recommend doing Schmid charts. So good. So good. And it hurts, especially if you're buying your own oils, because you'll mix the color and you'll mix the color and then it's wrong and it's wrong and it's wrong. And if you add too many pigments, you just have to throw it out and start away. Like it's just, and it hurts. Like it literally hurts because that's your wallet that you're throwing out. So then there's like stuff on the line. So then you're like, okay, how do I make this work? And that's when you learn. So yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, Richard Schmidt. So if you want a great book, guys, get Alla Prima by Richard Schmidt. You don't need to buy it. There's like online records of the book if you just want to read it. I do encourage getting the book because it is good to anything you're buying, you will cherish more. Like if you've got skin in the game, that's kind of what I'm saying. But he's got this whole section and he talks about how to make these, and they're really great for learning your values and colors. So thank you. All right. So just to finish us off here, I'd like to thank you very much, Howard, for coming on today.
You bet.
Yeah, I was so pleased when you agreed to come on. I'm endlessly blessed by this opportunity. So thank you.
Well, happy to be here. Fun to see these little drawings. I love all the, like I can see influences, allusions to other artists and sources. That's very cool.
I know. They're just amazing. Like I can't even, sometimes I feel like they should be up here and I should be on the canvas. So yeah. That being said, guys, I wish you guys a wonderful day and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.